I think the first thing that we tell people, and the first thing that we notice with systems, is that the number of users that actually don't change the default password that come out with the system. And that's not just for access control systems, but I mean, people buy routers for the home and that, like people just, the majority, they don't change those default passwords. So that's something that we really emphasize with people, so much so that the next version of XGuard that's released, 4.6, which is later this year, that actually has a lot of work put into it to actually force users to use strong passwords, which includes uppercase, lowercase letters, numbers, symbols, as well as alpha, the alphabet, that sort of thing. It's very important to control access to the system. So that's number one. Again, staying on the server, the system on the server. Just make sure the server is up to date with its antivirus software, with its security patches. We've had a couple of very sort of high-profile hacking cases in both public sector and private sector in 2017. For goodness sakes, that is an easy thing to do. So let's stay on top of that. Also, it's important to look at assigning the access rights to the access control database. That's just part of the course. What can different administrators do? What can they see? But it's going to become even more prevalent with the respect of data protection, and then GDPR coming down the pike as well. So the GDPR, when that comes into force in May, is going to drive a lot of compliance to data protection regulations within organisations within the EU, and that's going to drive an awful lot of behaviour. So people need to be on top of that. And then the fundamentals with regards to access control is looking at your system design, making sure that the controllers, for example, are controlled on the secure side of a door rather than an unsecured side. Surprisingly, we do see some situations where the controllers are on the unsecured side of the door. That's an absolute no-no. So make sure that that's done properly, and looking at things within the design, whether or not you're using read in, read out, or read in, egress out. What sort of control or tightening or hardening do you want in the overall system, and whether or not there are ties from the access control system to other elements of the security system, whether it be CCTV, intruder alarm, or HR systems, databases, time and attendance systems, payroll systems. So making sure that if there are those ties to other systems, that those ties are secure. And it's not just securing the access control element, it's securing the whole system. So having a holistic view of the system rather than its individual components. And lastly, I would look at the cards or the credentials that you use to come in and out of the building. So if it's a new system and you're looking at wanting to make sure that you've got the strongest security possible on a card-based system, we'll look at MyFair sector cards rather than serial cards. Looking at using MyFair Plus or DesFire, increasing the security and the anti-hackability of the card, of the credential at the outset. There are lots of options, and there's not very much price differential now between a proximity card and a MyFair sector or a MyFair DesFire side. And then also on the credential side of things, do you want to go to the next step and actually use biometrics in some parts of the organisation? And if you are going to be using biometrics to increase security, again within the biometric field, you can go from fingerprint, which is least secure but more secure than a card, all the way through to things like finger vein readers and iris scanning and facial recognition technologies, which are a lot more secure but more expensive. So there are lots of options out there to enhance the security of the security system. So I would advise end users to ask questions of their security consultants and systems designers to make sure that the basic elements of the security system are looked at.